All right. Good evening and welcome to Life Under the Sun, actually Wednesday Night Live, presented by Pioneer Baptist Church. If you are joining us tonight, please let us know. We'd love to hear from you. Let's see here. I got my family on YouTube, so that's cool. I have Eric Kelly here on Facebook. Clayton's on Facebook as well. And so we'll give it just a little bit for people to get on. So hopefully you've enjoyed today. A little bit warmer than it has been lately, but it was nice to have that. Let me know if you're on Facebook, if you can see this video. For some reason, it is saying that it is having trouble playing the video. So let me know if you see it, if you hear it, what's going on. Same thing on YouTube. Just confirm with me that we're good. I'm going to type to the people here on Facebook before we get started to see what the dealio is with them. And I'll ask them here if they can happen to see me. Let's see. Oh, I hate all these pop-ups on Facebook. They drive me crazy. Go away. I'll see here. Are you okay? Facebook is fine, so that's good. All right, thank you. So Kristen Kelly here. Anita Carly in here with us. All right. Audio and video both for right now. That's exactly right, Eric. For right now. So welcome to Wednesday Night Live. Hey, Kathy, good to see you as well. Got a text message from the church there in Tennessee, so that's cool. Glad to hear that. The hearts are here as well. Thank you guys for joining in, and as always, we need your participation on these evenings, especially we got a couple of our regulars, the Mitchells and Millers, are on the East Coast, and it's probably 10 o'clock or so on that side, so be shocked if they're turning in with us for tonight. So we need your interactions more than ever, although we've always needed them. So I really do appreciate you being here tonight, and I hope that we can enjoy our time through the book of Ecclesiastes, and specifically chapter 11. Hey, Daniel, good to see you here as well. If you're hopping on here at any time, please let us know. We want to hear from you, and we're going to find out who's tuning in with us. We want you guys to help us out and comment here. And so we're going to get started here this evening, like we always do, with a Would You Rather? A Would You Rather question, and this is today's Would You Rather. For some of you, it might be easy one. Some of you, it might be difficult. I have a feeling for most of you, this will be an easy one way or the other. I'm not saying that everybody will agree in all directions or in the same direction, but I think this will be, regardless of what side you choose, I think this will probably be an easy one for you. Ready? Here it is today's Would You Rather. Here it is. Would you rather only be able to eat really spicy but flavorful food, or really bland food for the rest of your life? So for the rest of your life, you can have really flavorful food, but it's also really spicy. Or you just get bland food, like no flavor whatsoever, absolutely boring, just bleh, right? So which one are you choosing? Really, Fred Clayton, that is the least surprising answer I think we've ever gotten on here before. Fred Clayton says spicy. If you don't know, Fred Clayton likes himself some hot sauce, some spicy food. So he is going really spicy but flavorful food. Oh man, okay, we got spicy from Fred Clayton. Let's see here. Kristen Kelly says bland. Cassie says bland. Kathy Hawkins says really spicy. Daniel says he would rather have spicy and flavorful. He says eventually you'd get used to the spice. So yeah, maybe so. It looks like maybe, I'm guessing this is Colleen on this side over here. It says really bland. I don't do spicy. Eric, it looks like Eric says spicy divided household. It looks like we got a couple divided households. Clayton's are divided household. Kelly's are divided household. The hearts say spicy. Gabe says spicy. I'd eventually build up a tolerance to it. Would somebody ever build up a tolerance to bland? Is there such a thing as a tolerance for bland? All right. Let's see here. 1, 2 blands, 3 blands, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Looks like 6 right now. Spicies. 6 spices and 3 blands as we stand right now. If you haven't answered the question, you see it there on the screen. Would you rather only be able to eat really spicy food, but flavorful food, or really bland food for the rest of your life? If you haven't answered it and you're just now tuning in, let us know. We'd love to hear your opinion on this, but drum roll, please. I'm not sure if you guys can even hear that drum roll. Since it is a special holiday, you guys know what holiday is? Right? Cinco de Mayo, which I'm sure this is exactly why you guys tuned in. Let's see, hold on. Anita says, can't do spicy, but have to make do with bland. Oh, man. Okay, we got another bland, so now it's 6-4. 6-4 in favor of spicy. But today is Cinco de Mayo. It's also, by the way, it's also my son Josiah's 12th birthday, so be sure to wish Josiah a happy birthday. Tell him happy birthday. Turned 12 today. He's not super excited about being sharing his birthday with such a major holiday like Cinco de Mayo. But today's his birthday. But in honor of both Josiah's birthday and Cinco de Mayo, here is a secondary would you rather question. Here it is, ready? Would you rather only eat tacos for the rest of your life or never eat a taco again? It's one or the other. Only tacos? Now you can mix up the taco. It doesn't always have to be a beef taco. It might be a chicken taco, a vegetarian taco. It could be, pork, carnitas. I mean, you can mix up the meat and the stuff on the inside of it. But would you rather only eat tacos for the rest of your life or never eat a taco again? Now, for some of you, that's not a big deal. But for some of you, Gabe, come on. Gabe says you never eat them again. Dude, you live on Taco Bell. It's like the only place you have. Now, granted, you usually get nachos and that kind of stuff. But come on. Really? But Gabe says he would never eat them again. Let's see. Kathy Hawkins says she would eat tacos for the rest of her life. Love my tacos. Cassie says tacos every day. Daniel says never eat a taco again. Too many good food options out there. Hart say never tacos again. Kristen Kelly says never tacos again. And Eric, again, divided household. Eric says eat tacos, easy, mix them up. That's right. Just change it up. It doesn't. You can put, like I said, you say that, but just beef one day, chicken one day, chicken another day, pork another day. Seafood tacos, fish tacos. You could have, like I said, vegetarian tacos, like a bean and cheese taco. Nobody said you couldn't have a brisket taco, Daniel. I've had a brisket taco before. Have a brisket taco, a rib taco. Now, I guess you got to draw a line somewhere, because you can't have a mac and cheese taco and then throw a slice of pizza in between your shell and make it a pizza taco. Like that wouldn't work. It'd have to be your basic taco makeup. But I've had brisket tacos before, so that's not crazy. Eric thinks he can put Thanksgiving in a taco. Maybe you could. A little turkey and some mashed potatoes in there and some cranberry sauce and pour some gravy over that thing and just I'd give it a shot. If somebody came up with a Thanksgiving taco, I think I'd give it a go. Anyway, that is the secondary would you rather question of the day to celebrate Cinco de Mayo. All right, we're going to move on to today's fact of the day. There's only one fact of the day. There's not two. Daniel says man was not meant to be confined to a taco shell. Maybe a case. I mean, I'm not saying I would love it. I would actually probably go with never eat a taco again. But I could see how I could make that work. It wouldn't crush me if I had to only eat tacos for the rest of my life. And I say that now, when I don't have to eat tacos for the rest of my life. Anyway, fact of the day. I found this one really interesting, and before you get your hopes up, Daniel, no, it's not the fact of the day that you told me I should have put on here. If you guys want to know what that is, you can ask Daniel later, or maybe one day it'll end up on here. This is a different one altogether, because I found this one really, really interesting as well. Today's fact of the day, and some of you maybe would love to be able to do this. Did you know that some snails can take naps that last up to 3 years. Gabe, I said some other time. I didn't say on this thread. I said some other time. On your own personal time, you can ask Daniel what the other would you rather or fact of the day is. But did you know that? Did anybody know that some snails, not all snails, some snails can take naps that last up to 3 years? It's kind of scary, right? Because like if somebody around here took a nap for 3 years, like we'd be like, oh, that person's dead. We call that a coma around here. We don't call that taking a nap. We call that being in a coma. And they go to the hospital for that kind of stuff. But you can look it up. There are some snails that can take naps that last up to 3 years. My wife says she was meant to be a snail. No. Yeah, let me know what you think about that. Some snails can take naps. How many of you'd like to do that? I don't think I'd like to take a 3-year nap. I mean, I'd fall asleep today, and like my 12-year-old would be 15, my 7-year-old would be 10, my 14-year-old would be 17. Like goodness, 3 years of my life just gone. Look, some of you want to change places with this snail. Yeah. Right. Eric says not the snails in his garden bed because they're eating all the time. Maybe they're just fueling up for hibernation. Maybe they haven't reached their 3-year nap cycle yet. Maybe right now they're eating all of your garden food so they can fill their stomachs for their upcoming 3-year hibernation. Daniel, that is impressive. I did not know that you had the ability to put a snail emoji on YouTube, but apparently you can. That's really interesting. But there you go. Snails. Some snails can nap up to 3 years. Some of you apparently think you'd love that. Not for me. I do like a nap here and there, but not for 3 years. Anyway, let's move on. We'll move on to our study in the book of Ecclesiastes. We're going to look at Ecclesiastes chapter 11 today, and it won't be a long one because Ecclesiastes chapter 11 is only 10 verses. And when we ended last week, we ended on this idea, this overriding idea in chapters 9 and 10, that Solomon gives us that death is unavoidable, life is unpredictable, and so live wisely and avoid folly. I mean, if you want to just kind of encapsulate chapters 9 and 10, death is unavoidable, life is unpredictable, so live wisely and avoid folly. As we turn the page to Ecclesiastes chapter 11, I want us to think, I want us to hold our fingers in Ecclesiastes chapter 11, but think back all the way to Ecclesiastes chapter 1 and remember the way that Ecclesiastes started, the way that Solomon started the book of Ecclesiastes. And really it was just with this overriding question of, is life even worth living? Like, is it even worth living? At the beginning he said, life is monotonous, wisdom is vanity, wealth is futile, death is certain. So from the beginning, it almost looks as if Solomon says, life isn't really worth living. It's monotonous, it's futile, it's vanity, it's, we're all going to die. Like, man, what in the world? But Solomon then takes the next couple of chapters and reviews his arguments in the light of God. He brings God into the picture. He brings God's wisdom into the picture. And as we read through the book, we begin to see kind of this change of heart and change of mind that happens for Solomon. And he begins to realize that each season in life has a purpose, that wealth can be enjoyed for the glory of God, that wisdom is better than folly, and that while we can't escape death, that it should motivate us to enjoy life, but also to make the most of our opportunities that God has given us, and primarily it should motivate us to place our trust in Jesus Christ for eternal life, if death is certainly coming. And so those are some of the conclusions that Solomon ends up coming to. And as we come to Ecclesiastes chapter 11, Solomon wants to apply all of this wisdom that he learns. And so what he does is he starts painting some pictures for us. He likes to use word pictures of everyday things that he sees, and he does them here in Ecclesiastes chapter 11 and chapter 12 as well. In Ecclesiastes chapter 11, we're going to look at two of them. We'll look at the other two next week. But the first two that he tells us, or that he shares with us, actually, I'll tell you what all four are. Life is an adventure. Life is a gift. Life is a classroom. Life is a stewardship. He kind of paints these pictures for us. I'm about to sneeze again. As I told you, usually got at least one good one in there every week. It must be the light that gets me. But he tells us these things. Life is an adventure. Life is a gift. Life is a classroom. Life is a stewardship. And he kind of, through the lens of these things, he kind of applies the wisdom that he's garnered. And so hang with me, because I'm going to ask you some questions. Some of them I'm going to want you to dig pretty deep into your own heart about some of these things. But we're going to take just a minute. We're going to read verses 1 through 6 and look at life as an adventure. Okay? Look at verses 1 through 6 with me. It says this: Cast thy bread upon the waters, for thou shalt find it after many days. Give a portion to 7, and also to 8. For thou knowest not what evil shall be upon the earth. If the clouds be full of rain, they empty themselves upon the earth. And if the tree fall toward the south or toward the north, in the place where the tree falleth, there it shall be. He that observeth the wind shall not sow, and he that regardeth the clouds shall not reap. As thou knowest not what is the way of the Spirit, nor how the bones do grow in the womb of her that is with child, even so thou knowest not the works of God who maketh all. In the morning sow thy seed, and in the evening withhold not thy hand, for thou knowest not whether shall prosper, either this or that, or whether they both shall be alike good. Those are the first 6 verses, and again, the overriding picture that Solomon is painting here for us is that life is an adventure. Now, sometimes we don't like adventures. You guys remember? I think I maybe even referenced something like this on Sunday. You guys remember the Choose Your Adventure book that they had out there? You know, and you could you got to the end of page 15, and you could, if you wanted to enter into the jungle, then you turn to page 27. And if you wanted to raft down the river, you just turn the page over to page 16, or whatever it is. You could kind of choose your adventure throughout the book. We're looking at us here, and he's saying, we wish we could choose our adventures, but here, life is an adventure. Sometimes we don't choose the adventures; life comes at us, and we just have to live the adventure. And sometimes people love the excitement of that, and some people don't like the excitement of that. But again, hang on, because I'm going to ask you some questions here in just a minute. But I want us to look really quickly at verses 1 and 2, because verses 1 and 2 have, as often as I've read Ecclesiastes chapter 1 and 2, they've always been somewhat of a mystery to me. And as a matter of fact, even in my study, there's not a 100% agreement on exactly what Solomon is saying here. I do think there's a pretty clear agreement on the application of what he's saying here. But the picture he's painting, not everybody agrees on that. Verses 1 and 2 say this: Cast thy bread upon the waters. Like when I was a kid, I think about somebody like, feeding a duck, right? You got your loaf of bread, and you're pulling the bread off, and you're tossing it out into the water. He says, for thou shalt find it after many days. And as a kid, I'm going, I don't want to find that bread out. That's nasty. It's soggy. Like, who wants that? Nobody wants that. Verse 2 says, Give a portion to 7, also to 8. For thou knowest not what evil shall be upon the earth. So, let me ask you, and I know this is an unfair question because most of you probably haven't studied out Ecclesiastes chapter 11, and I don't have the answer. Actually, I do have this here. What is a lesson that Solomon is trying to teach here? What wisdom is he imparting in verses 1 and 2, and also in verses 3 through 6? But I know, and maybe some of you have a study Bible right there that can help in certain ways, but when you read those verses, this is important for us to kind of take some time and think about it, to chew on this for a little bit. Can you begin to, just in those verses there, verses 1 and 2, think about maybe a lesson or some wisdom that Solomon is trying to impart to us in verses 1 and 2 of Ecclesiastes chapter 11. I'll share with you some of my thoughts about it here in just a second. But what could, again, I'm not looking for everybody to nail it perfectly. This isn't some kind of trap question or anything like this. I told you from the beginning, it's one of those, for a long time, these are some of the verses that have always kind of been a mystery to me. Like, what is he talking about? And again, in my study, I think there's a pretty clear agreement on application. Um, and Terry and Michelle Hart mentioned here to be generous, and to be diverse in your investments, and especially that last part there. I do believe that is that, and Kristen hit on that as well. But those. I do believe that that's kind of the overall application is this idea of diversity, and certainly the Claytons mentioned it takes a while before you reap the rewards of your decision, and so um, and so that especially in verses 3 through 6. Eric talks about the idea of generosity and sharing with others. You don't know the impacts that others that may have on others because they're having a bad day, and so we know there's no doubt we see this idea of being generous. We also see this idea of an investment, of diversification. Somebody, and I don't remember who it was that I studied. Somebody has paraphrased Ecclesiastes chapter 11 verse 1 in verse 1, chapter 11 and verse 1 in this way. They paraphrased it as to send your grain upon the water. Some people actually believe that in the context here, he's actually speaking of ships that would take produce, grain, which would be your which would be your what makes your bread, and send it out on ships, and to send it on a multitude of ships, because you don't know. In verse 2 it says give a portion to 7 and also to 8. For thou knowest not what evil shall be upon the earth. In other words, put it on 7 or 8 different ships and send them to different places, because you don't know what the storms are going to be like. You don't know if a pirate's going to jump on board. You don't know if that boat's going to sink. And you don't want, in our English language, you don't want all your eggs in one basket. Now, I'll say this as well. As believers, generosity is an investment as well. I don't want us to forget that generosity is an investment in other places, in other people, and around the world. And so we need to certainly be able to remember that. The other example he gives, some people believe the first example is this idea of a sea merchant, right, who's putting grain on his ship. The other one is much more obvious, and that is of a farmer, right? And the reality is it's actually today is the reality too. How many of you saw or watched for a long time that ship that got caught diagonally or whatever in the Suez Canal over there in the Middle East, and just kind of clogged up the shipping lanes for weeks, and the supply of many of those goods, the supply chain around the world was disrupted majorly because that one ship got stuck. And the reality is, most of those boats, when they took off to go wherever they were going to go, and hey, we're going to hit the Suez Canal. Nobody was planning for that, right? Nobody was planning, hey, we're going to get stuck in line waiting for the Suez Canal for whatever, 10, 11 days or whatever it was. But farming is an adventure as well. Well, the idea that Solomon here is really beginning to deal with is that being a merchant and being a farmer take a great deal of faith. Would you agree? That being a merchant, being a sea merchant, being a farmer takes a great deal of faith, because circumstances are never ideal. The seas are never completely calm. The clouds and the rain don't operate on your schedule. And the truth is, if we waited for the circumstances in our life to be ideal, we would never get anything done. If sea merchants waited for the seas to always be perfect, they wouldn't do anything. If farmers waited for the weather to always be perfect, they wouldn't get anything done. Um, and so there's a reminder here, right? There's this reminder that he gives to us that you don't know what the future holds, right? And so that's one of the reasons he says, don't put all your eggs in one basket. Spread out your wealth. Don't put it all into, as the word that Kristen used, don't put it all into one venture. In other words, faith is not presumptuous, right? Faith still uses wisdom, and wisdom says don't put all your eggs in one basket, because life is a venture, life is an adventure sometimes, and so you want to be prepared for that. But then in verses 3 through 6, he says, if the clouds be full of rain, they empty themselves upon the earth. And if the tree fall toward the south or toward the north, in the place where the tree falleth, there it shall be. He that observeth the wind shall not sow, he that regardeth the clouds shall not reap. As thou knowest not what is the way of the Spirit, nor how the bones do grow in the womb of her that is with child, even so thou knowest not the work of God who maketh it all. In the morning sow thy seed, and in the evening withhold not thine hand. For thou knowest not whether shall prosper either this or that, or whether they both shall be alike good. Again, as we understand and read this, he's saying, you can't predict the weather. And no offense, I think Terry Hart at sometime wanted to be a meteorologist, and I know meteorologists are given a hard time, for their prediction of the weather, and even them. I even think about this past winter. They were saying, "Oh, this might be the biggest snowstorm that we've had in a long time," and it was, could be a dusting, it could be 6 or 8 inches, and then in reality, for a lot of us, what it ended up being was a whole lot of ice. And I know I'm not saying they purposely do those things or purposely make mistakes, but even the people who are professionals at this thing can't predict the weather, and farmers certainly can't go, well, 3 months or 6 months or 8 months or 9 months from now, I think the weather's going to be just like this. You can't predict it. You can't control it. Clouds change. Trees, which you mentioned, stay the same. They're standing there, but they may fall this way. Or they may get pushed over this way. And so Eric, I knew Eric would probably chime in on this, but there's a saying that says, "Calm seas never make for a skilled sailor." Calm seas never make for a skilled sailor. And much of Solomon's implorement here is don't sit around and wait for ideal experiences. Don't sit around and wait for ideal experiences. Fred Clayton mentions real experiences only come in with diverse experiences, right? Most of those experiences aren't easy. I even wrote here in my notes, if you're looking for an excuse to do nothing, you can always find one. You can always find one. Look at verse 4. It says, "He that observeth the wind shall not sow, and he that regardeth the clouds shall not reap." If the farmer went out every day, every single day, went, "Oh, it's a little breezy today, can't sow today. Oh, the wind's blowing today, I'm not gonna sow today. Oh, the clouds aren't perfect, so I'm not gonna reap." He would just never do it. It would never happen. You can't wait for the ideal experiences, ideal circumstances. Verse 6 says, "In the morning sow your seed. In the evening withhold not your hand." In other words, go and reap those things. "For thou knowest not whether shall prosper, either this or that, or whether they both shall be alike good." In other words, use each day wisely. Invest in today what will pay dividends tomorrow. Okay? But there's this overriding theme of, hey, as you do that, there's going to have to be some steps of faith, because life isn't perfect, and every circumstance isn't exactly what you want it to be. And I know that this is a very personal question, and so I understand it may take a little time for people to answer this question. But I wanted to ask this question tonight and see if there would be some responses, and it's this: What are some areas of life that you need to live by faith? Where you think to yourself, you know what? A lot of times I catch myself going, well, I gotta wait for the circumstances to be just perfect. I gotta wait for everything to be just like I want it to be before I act. I'm afraid that if I do it, now, then things I don't know. Um, I just want to keep uh, keep waiting. George, and I think many of us feel this way. He says, everything I've gotten that's good or gotten good at, I've learned to do in extreme situations. Right? It's not again in those perfect seasons. It's not in those seasons where everything is exactly right and exactly the way that we want it. And so the application question or the probing question that I ask you and that we ask ourselves are, what are some other areas in my life where I need to stop waiting for things to be perfect and just trust the Lord? Sometimes I think about even for our theme for this year, opportunities to go out and do go out and do our pray and go, or to witness to somebody, or to give out one of those why I bought your coffee cards, kind of things. And so you know sometimes we're like, oh, I just gotta wait for the perfect opportunity. And the reality is, maybe there never is a perfect opportunity. Maybe God just wants you to take all of those opportunities, and let Him use them. And again, I think there's wisdom that's done in this, that's asked for, that's prayed for. Um, but sometimes we just have to, we have to act in faith and say, I'm just going to trust the Lord with this. I know that there are a lot of areas in life uh, that reality plays into. So I'm waiting for people to jump in and give maybe specific examples. I haven't seen any pop up yet, but I do want you to at least, whether you type them out on the screen or not, I do want you to think about that. What are some areas of life that you need to understand? Like, life isn't always calm seas. Life isn't always exact conditions or circumstances I want. But I'm still going to serve the Lord. I'm still going to do what He asked me to do. I'm still going to be obedient, even though things may not be perfect like I want them to be. And so he talks about life being an adventure. I remember whenever we started traveling on deputation to raise support to start Pioneer, we would refer to that as our adventure with God, because we never knew what a day would bring, or what a week would bring, or what a time at a church would bring. We didn't know where we were going to stay. We didn't know the people we would meet. There's a lot of things we went. We don't know what this is going to be. We have no idea where we're going to, how this week is going to turn out. But we're just on an adventure with God, and we're trusting Him by faith to work out these details. Life is an adventure. But I'll know this much: if there's an adventure, there's nobody I'd rather take that adventure with than the Lord. So grab onto His hand, trust Him, ask Him to lead you. Don't pull Him where you want to. Ask Him to lead you, and follow Him as He leads you on this adventure of life. The second thing he says, though, is this: life is a gift. Life is a gift. Look at verses 7 through 10. He says, "Truly the light is sweet, and a pleasant thing it is for the eyes to behold the sun. But if a man live many years and rejoice in them all, yet let him remember the days of darkness, for they shall be many. All that cometh is vanity. Rejoice, O young man, in thy youth, and let thy heart cheer thee in the days of thy youth, and walk in the ways of thine heart, and in the sight of thine eyes. But know thou that for all these things God will bring thee into judgment. Therefore remove sorrow from thy heart, put away evil from thy flesh, for childhood and youth are vanity." Now, first he says life is an adventure. Now he says life is a gift. Life is a gift. Now, I want you to go back and I want you to look at verses, especially verses 7 through 9, right? And with life being a gift, what is one thing? It's repeated at least twice, if not multiple times. What is one thing? What is one encouragement that Solomon gives us to do with the gift of life? What is something he tells us to do? And while you're looking over that and answering that, I'm going to read through some of these things. Uh, Hardships develop a well-rounded person. Without pain, you can't appreciate pleasure. Uh, Eric says, witnessing is what I struggle with. Tough to find the right time. Situation seems to hold me back, and I think a lot of us are there. You are not alone in that, without a doubt. Um, so back, I was just reading through some of the other responses here, but back to verses 7 through 9. What does he tell us to do? There's an action he tells us to do with the gift of life. Look at it. Look at verses 7 through 9 again. Let me see if I can um, say again. Truly, the light is sweet and pleasant thing. It is to the eyes for the eyes to behold the sun. But if a man live many years and rejoice in them all, yet let him remember the days of darkness, for they shall be many. All that cometh is vanity. Rejoice, O young man, in thy youth, and let thy heart cheer thee in the days of thy youth, and walk in the ways of thine heart, uh, and in the sight of thine eyes. But know thou that these things God will bring thee to judgment. Uh, there's a couple. There's one word he uses twice, and there's kind of a hinting at that exact same word again. Um, um, so certainly, Fred Clayton chimes in, hey, life is a gift, so live it. And he certainly gives that imploration over and over again, right? He says, hey, life is a gift from God. So enjoy it for his honor and for, in obedience to him, but for his honor and glory. Cassie mentions the word rejoice, and that's the first word that comes to mind when I look at it again. Again, look at verses 8 and 9. He says, Terry Cross mentions it, Eric mentions it there. But if a man live many years and rejoice in them all, yet let him remember the days of darkness, for they shall be many. All that cometh is vanity. Rejoice, O young man, in thy youth, and let thy heart cheer thee in the days of thy youth, and walk in the ways of thine heart, in the sight of thine eyes. But know thou that thou shalt, that for all these things God will bring thee into judgment. It's a reminder. One of the things that Solomon reminds us here is that each day is a new day. And each day is an opportunity to enjoy that day. Now, here at the end of Ecclesiastes chapter 11, and as we get to Ecclesiastes chapter 12, especially in the beginning, Solomon is definitely turning his attention towards the youth, right? Towards young people, and he's reminding them that, hey, your youth is to be a time of enjoyment. Notice he didn't say folly or foolishness, but you should enjoy your youth. And there's a lot of reasons why we should enjoy our youth. It's funny, and maybe some of you can share examples. I understand, and I know I use this as an example a lot, but I think there are a lot of things that we can learn from this, and that you can probably speak to as well. As a coach of high school young people, 9th through 12th grade, they're working their way through high school. They're getting a driver's license. Maybe they want to buy a car, or maybe they're preparing for college. And so a lot of times some of those kids will get jobs. And I'm not against high school kids having jobs at all. I'm not against that. But there have been some instances, both as a youth pastor and then also as a coach, where that job has overtaken everything else in life. It's almost like it's become more important to them than school. They're playing on the team, but hey, coach, I gotta shoot out for work or this or that. And by the way, I'm pretty sure it's the law that it might not be the law. I'm pretty sure it actually is that they can hold employment, and that their employer is supposed to work around their school schedule and even their athletic schedule most of the time. But they become so consuming, and sometimes I'll have to pull those kids off the side and be like, "Hey, man, you're gonna work for the rest of your life. For the rest of your life, you're gonna be in the labor force, or for the next whatever, 40, 50, 60 years, you're gonna be in the labor force. Enjoy this time. Enjoy the opportunity to ride on the bus and go to this game and hang out with your friends. Enjoy the opportunity to come to this gym and play this game and practice for a little while. Enjoy that opportunity right now where you don't have to pay the electric bill. You don't have to, fix the plumbing at your house, and you don't have to worry about the car breaking down and you paying for the new fuel pump. You don't have to worry about those things. It's not that youth has no issues. They do. They have struggles and hardships, but that youth is a time to be enjoyed. It's a time to rejoice in that time. Now, one of the really interesting phrases that he uses here that sometimes throw people off, he uses phrase, he says, and walk in the ways of thine heart and in the sight of thine eyes. Okay? Some people look at that and say, see, that's, do whatever, follow your heart, do whatever you want, but we're in danger when we only read snippets and parts of the verses, right? We got to read it in context. We got to read the rest of it. So read the rest of it with me. He says, walk in the ways of thine heart and in the sight of thine eyes, but know thou that for all these things God will bring thee into judgment. So be careful. Say, see, that's your opportunity. This is your opportunity to just sow your wild oats and do whatever you want to, and then you can live for the Lord later. No. Again, in the context, the Bible says, walk in the ways of the heart, sight of the eyes. But know thou also that for all these things God will bring thee into judgment. Right? So in other words, enjoy your life, enjoy your youth, but also understand that your youthfulness doesn't get you out of answering to the Lord. So again, do it wisely. Don't do it foolishly. But don't forget, enjoy being a youth. You don't get that back. So the first one he uses is rejoice, and then the second one, and we'll be done for tonight, is remove. Look at verse 10. Therefore, remove sorrow from thy heart. Put away evil from thy flesh. For childhood and youth are vanity. You say, wait a second. You just said, enjoy it. But now you're saying, remove these things out of your life, and childhood and youth are vanity. Well, and again, this is a lesson we're really beginning as our kids get older that we're trying to implement into them, is that privilege has to be balanced with responsibility, right? And as you were growing up, you probably heard that from your parents as well. The more privilege you have, the more responsibility you have. If you let your responsibilities slip, then your privileges are going to slip as well. He says, remove sorrow, inner pain, vexation from your spirit, and put away evil from thy flesh. Then he goes on and he finishes and says, for childhood and youth are vanity. Right? Childhood and youth are vanity. That doesn't mean that childhood and youth are a waste of time. It just means that childhood and youthfulness, they go away quickly. Right? Like, in a couple weeks, I'll be 41. There are times where in my mind I think I'm still 18. And then I go look in the mirror and go, that is not the face. Those are not the eyes. That is not the beard. That is not the gray hair of an 18-year-old. And you go, where did the time go? And there's a reminder here from Solomon to take care of your mind, to take care of your body, to avoid the destructive sins of the flesh, to build good habits even when you're young, so that you can set yourself up for a better chance to enjoy your adult years. In other words, saying, take advantage of your youthful years. Honor the Lord with them. Enjoy them, because that's where great enjoyment as a youth is not in wrestling God, but it's in submitting your will to the Lord and living freely in that way, and submitting yourself to Him, your mind, your body, your habits, all of those things that set you up for a better adult life. Looking through some of these, Fred Clayton makes a good point. He says, it's not a contradiction. You can enjoy life without being vain and stupid, and that is very true. Life can be enjoyable without being foolish. So it's a good thing for us to remember. And so we have some people here. I think Kathy Hawkins just mentioned some of the places we need to operate and follow the Lord by faith. So those are good and interesting to read. So the final question I have for you, following up on this idea of life as a gift, what are some areas of life you need to remember are a gift from God and to treat them as such? Obviously, for many of us that are watching tonight, our youth is gone. Maybe not our youthful spirit or our youthful energy, but the days of our youth have passed. Um, but what are some areas of our life that you need to wake up tomorrow and remember this is a gift from God. This is a gift from God. This is a privilege and a responsibility from God. It's a new opportunity for me to enjoy it for His honor and for His glory, to not waste it, to take care of it, to steward it, to build good habits around it, to invest in it. What are some areas of your life where you go, you know what, I need to remember when I wake up tomorrow, I need to remember that this is a gift from God. Um, Definitely. So the hearts mention your health, and it is, man. Our health, your health, is a gift from God. It is. It is such a gift from God. Steward it, in a and again, whatever you need to do. I'm so thankful for for Cassie, because she works really hard to make sure that we eat well. And I heard her even talk to the boys the other day about, I walked down the stairs from my office and she's like, you need to drink more water. Dad and I try to drink, multiple. I have my water bottle here. Try to drink multiple water bottles worth of water every day, and she's trying to instill that into our kids as well. Daniel mentions children, and that's a huge one. And sometimes we think that like that, we take that for granted, but they're gifts from God. Sometimes they don't feel like gifts. Sometimes they don't smell like gifts. Sometimes they don't act like gifts. Sometimes they don't respond like gifts, but they are gifts from God, to be stewarded. Our home is a gift from God, and we want to steward that as well. Cassie mentions the opportunity to homeschool our kids, because sometimes that doesn't feel like a gift, but we're so thankful that we can invest in them and be with them and spend time with them so much. Our church family is a gift from God. Friendships are a gift from God, and so we're writing all of these things out that are gifts from God to enjoy. They're a privilege, but they're also a responsibility. Things that we want to take care of, to build good habits around, and to invest in. And so you mentioned some of these things. Our faith is a gift from God. You mentioned these things. You said them. So when you wake up tomorrow, don't forget that tomorrow. And maybe pick up the phone and call somebody from your church family, or call a friend you haven't talked to, or mention it to your spouse, or treat your body in a way that you say, this is a gift from God that I want to steward for His honor and for His glory. The Claytons even mentioned a good point as well. Sometimes the hard times, are gifts from God, uh, and a reminder that things could be worse. And so Solomon, as he enters into some of the application parts of Ecclesiastes chapter 11, wants to remind us that life is an adventure. It's one that we live by faith. And there's not another person. Listen to me. There's not another person. There's not a better person to go on this adventure that we call life than with God. And I'll repeat it again, like I said before. Take Him by the hand. Lord, I'm trusting you. I'm following you. I'm following your lead. I want to follow what you're doing. I'm asking you to lead me on this adventure. Help me to live by faith. Lord, I'm trusting you. I'm holding on to you. Okay? And then life is a gift. And it's somewhat easy for us to sit at computer screens right now and say, this is a gift, and this is a gift, and this is a gift. It's another thing, and that thing is staring us in the face, or maybe being difficult. In those moments, Solomon is reminding us, hey, this is a gift. It's a privilege and a responsibility. Invest in it. Invest in it. Invest in it, because it's a gift from God. So I just wanted to mention those things to you this evening. Ecclesiastes chapter 12, when we turn the page to Ecclesiastes chapter 12, he continues to build upon those things. Some of these other things. He actually, to some extent, we continue to see that life is a gift from God in Ecclesiastes chapter 12, in the beginning of it. That's why he tells young people again to take care of it while they're still in their youth. He goes on and reminds us that life is a classroom and that life is a stewardship, and we'll take a look at those things next week. As we close, though, I'm going to give you a few moments, maybe not something you wanted to type out or didn't have the opportunity to. Any closing thoughts from Ecclesiastes chapter 11? I'll give you an opportunity to do that here. It won't take long. I know we're ending a little bit early today, and I thank you for your jumping in here. It was great to have. George. I wasn't sure if you guys would be able to jump in here with us at all, but glad you guys were able to make it. I want to encourage you to maybe take a few moments later on tonight or tomorrow and read through Ecclesiastes chapter 11 again and remind yourself of some of these things we talked about tonight, and that they can be a help to you and you as you grow in your faith and in your walk with the Lord. Thank you guys again for joining us tonight. And as we say, and as we end every week, let me encourage you to keep looking up. Keep looking to the Lord. Again, as we mentioned before, as we're living this adventure of a life with the Lord, we're going to grab Him by the hand, look up to Him, and grab. Don't let all of this down here squash your faith. Don't let all of this down here make you think that it's not a gift from God. Um, we need to look at life um, from above that perspective, from a godly, heavenly perspective. So let me encourage you to keep looking up. Thank you guys again for joining us tonight. If you're able to, hope we'll be able to see you on Sunday at the Grove, 10:30, Mother's Day. We'll have a gift for the moms. Looking forward to that. And so we'll hope to see you guys on Sunday. Hope you have a great rest of the day. And we'll talk to you guys later.